know, when you open up a physical, like, paper notebook, there's this incredibly comforting expectation of passivity.
Right, it just sits there.
Exactly. You write a word with a pen, and it just stays on the page. It demands absolutely nothing from you.
It's totally static.
Yeah.
It doesn't ask you to categorize that thought or, add a metadata tag or build some automated workflow around it so your whole team gets notified.
Right, it's just paper.
Yeah.
But then you log into a modern digital workspace, and suddenly that blank digital page is staring back at you.
It wants to know everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
It demands to know exactly how this new note relates to, like, every other piece of data in your entire life. You aren't just taking notes anymore. You are suddenly expected to be a full-blown database architect.
And that is the absolute definition of digital whiplash. I mean, we moved from simply capturing our thoughts to engineering these massive digital ecosystems.
Which is exhausting.
It really is. And frankly, based on the materials we're looking at today, it leaves a lot of people feeling completely paralyzed before they even type their first sentence.
Which is exactly why we are here today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are talking directly to you, the listener, and today's mission is, well, it's highly ambitious.
Oh, absolutely.
We are decoding the ultimate modern productivity stack. We're going to help you figure out how to bridge that massive, intimidating gap between simple, everyday note-taking and powerful AI-driven automation.
And crucially, doing all of that without falling victim to that dreaded information overload.
Right, and we have a phenomenal stack of sources to draw from to figure this out. Okay, let's unpack this. We aren't just looking at one specific tool today, are we?
Not at all. We are pulling from a pretty wild mix of research.
Yeah, we've got a deep dive YouTube transcript from the channel Savage Reviews covering a minimalist app called Workflowy. We've got highly technical database tutorials from creators like Alex Cunningham and Titan.
Plus, we're digging into Zapier community troubleshooting threads, which are fascinating.
Oh, they get deep. And corporate integration guides from a platform called Prove It. And to top it all off, we're exploring a massive, curated GitHub repository maintained by a user named VictorBizDev that tracks over 4,700 open source projects.
It's a really wide net, but there's a very clear, logical thread running through all of this material.
Right, because before you can even think about automating your workspace or bringing in AI, you have to make a fundamental choice.
Exactly. You have to decide how your brain naturally organizes information.
Yeah.
And our sources present two completely opposing structural philosophies on how to actually do that.
So let's start with the extreme minimalist approach, which is Workflowy. According to that Savage Reviews transcript, Workflowy isn't really an app with traditional folders and subfolders and files.
No, it is literally just one single, infinitely zoomable bullet point list.
Which sounds, I don't know, almost too simplistic to be useful, right?
It is that way, yeah. But the actual mechanics of how it works are brilliant for a specific type of thinker.
The reviewer describes it perfectly. You start with a completely blank white page and just a single bullet point.
Right, so let's say you're planning a vacation.
Yeah, you make a bullet called Europe trip. Under that, you hit tab and you nest billets for different cities. Under Paris, you nest hotels, restaurants, and museum tickets.
But here is the magic trick. Click on the Paris bullet, zoom in, and suddenly Paris becomes your entire screen.
Yes. Every other city, every other life responsibility or distraction just completely vanishes from your view.
Which provides this profound cognitive relief. When everything else disappears, you can achieve really deep focus. But, as with any software philosophy, there are always trade-offs.
Always. And the reviewer points out that the free version of Workflowy is surprisingly strict.
Very strict. You're limited to creating just 250 new bullets per month.
Which is nothing. If you are an avid note taker or if you use it for daily journaling, you will blow through that in a matter of days.
Exactly. Yeah. To get unlimited bullets, you have to upgrade to their Pro tier, which is $4.99 a month or $49 annually.
But paying the fee isn't the only trade-off. It's what you give up in terms of features.
Right, because there is no rich text formatting.
None. No fancy highlights or color-coded blocks. There are no native calendar integrations, no built-in due dates or push notifications to remind you of a task.
The platform relies entirely on a robust hashtagging system and a lightning-fast search function. It heavily rewards users who naturally think in nested, hierarchical outlines.
Now contrast that Zen-like simplicity with the high-octane world of Notion.
Oh, it's night and day.
Totally. Looking at the tutorials from Alex Cunningham and Titan, Notion operates on a completely different wavelength. Titan points out that if you just type a / and the word database on a blank page, page.
You instantly summon your entire data architecture.
Exactly, because Notion isn't a list, it is a relational database wrapped inside a text editor.
And Alex Cunningham takes it a step further in his tutorial. He shows how you can stack multiple linked databases onto a single unified page.
You don't just see a raw list of data, right? You create custom views.
Yeah, you might have one view showing your project tasks as a visual Kanban board, like sticky notes on a whiteboard, and right below it, a tightly filtered list of your immediate deadlines for the week.
He even recommends actively deleting the default view so you can curate a highly specific, centralized dashboard.
Which makes sense.
It makes me think of an analogy. Workflowy is like a digital microscope. You slide the glass around and zoom in to examine one highly specific, isolated cell of information.
I like that.
But Notion. Notion is a high-tech control room with screens covering every single wall.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
But I have to push back here. Doesn't building a massive dashboard full of databases inevitably link to the exact information overload we're trying to avoid?
It's a huge risk.
Is there a real danger in seeing literally everything all at once?
This raises an important question, and it really comes down to the discipline of curation. A control room is only useful if the screens are showing you the right telemetry at the right time.
Right, if it's all just noise, it's useless.
Exactly. If you just dump every database you own onto a single Notion page without filtering them, yes, you will be completely paralyzed.
So how do you avoid that?
Well, the true power of Notion isn't in just storing the data. It's in mathematically filtering the view so that the dashboard only shows you what is actionable in this exact moment and hides the rest.
Okay, that makes sense. But living entirely inside a text bubble isn't realistic. Eventually, you have to bring the outside internet into your workspace.
You definitely do.
If I'm managing a project, I need to see the design files, the maps, the Zoom links.
Exactly. You can't operate in a vacuum.
Okay.
How these platforms handle external data through embeds tells you a lot about their underlying architecture.
And their ultimate goals for your attention. Let's look at the Notion Help Center. Notion essentially acts as a massive sponge for the internet.
They really do. They use a back-end service called iFramely.
Yeah, and iFramely natively supports embedding interactive content from over 1,900 different domains.
And we aren't just talking about pasting static blue hyperlinks here.
No, the documentation specifically highlights live Zoom meeting previews, interactive Google Maps where you can actually pan around and zoom in right on the Notion page.
It's crazy to think about.
It is. Plus, live Miro whiteboards and fully accessible Google Drive files.
What's fascinating here is the underlying strategy. They want Notion to be the frame through which you view the rest of your digital life.
To stop you from leaving the app.
Exactly. Every time you leave an app to check an email or look at a map, you experience context switching. Your brain loses focus. By making external data seamlessly visible, they are fighting to keep you inside their ecosystem.
Now, Workflowy has historically taken a much more guarded approach to this to protect their minimalist vibe.
Right, they didn't want the clutter.
But they've had to evolve. The sources track a fascinating historical shift. Back in 2012, Workflowy's founder, Jesse Patel, announced a massive architectural change.
They finally allowed users to embed shared, collaborative lists from other people into their own personal accounts.
Right, which took rewriting a huge fraction of their code base just to allow that internal embedding.
And the source mentions the shared lists were denoted by a special blue aura around the bullet, just so you knew that part of your list was connected to someone else.
I love that little visual detail. But looking at the recent updates from their 2025 and 2026 timeline, they are aggressively modernizing without breaking their minimalist rules.
Yeah, in March 2026, they rolled out an email to Workflowy feature.
This lets you pipe thoughts directly into your specific bullet list by simply sending an email without even opening the app.
It's so clean. And in September 2025, they introduced ICU OCR,
which is a brilliant way to handle external data. OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition.
Right, so instead of embedding a massive, clunky image file into your clean list, the app physically reads the text inside the image you upload.
It extracts it and drops it into your list as plain bullet points.
It literally translates the visual world into their native, minimalist format.
Viewing all that external data in one place is incredibly satisfying, but viewing data is passive.
Yeah, taking action is active.
Exactly. If I change the status of a project in my notes, I want my other apps to know about it. And that brings us to how data actually moves between these silos. Enter Zapier.
Zapier is essentially the automation engine that powers a massive chunk of the modern web. It acts as a digital bridge between apps that wouldn't normally talk to each other.
The stats in our sources are just staggering. 87% of the Forbes Cloud 100 companies use it.
Users have created over 25 million automations, which they call zaps.
And the average user gets a workflow up and running in just 6 minutes. It's marketed as incredibly accessible.
You can set up simple connections effortlessly. For example, you can make it so every time you write a quick thought in a mobile app like Collected Notes, Zapier automatically creates a new bullet point in your workflowy inbox.
Or, looking at the Approve It integration guide, you can trigger complex corporate approval workflows the second someone fills out a Google form or moves a sales lead in Salesforce.
But, as accessible as these no-code tools are, you inevitably hit a wall when dealing with complex data.
Oh, for sure.
And our sources highlight a very specific, very frustrating roadblock when it comes to the Notion Zapier integration.
I found this part of the research fascinating, but honestly, it made my head spin.
It's notorious.
The William Nutt tutorial and the Zapier community threads detail this perfectly. It turns out Zapier natively lacks the ability to update relation properties in Notion out of the box.
Right.
Why is linking two things so fundamentally difficult for this massive automation platform?
Well, because a relation isn't just text. If you have a submissions database and a separate countries database, you might want to link a new submission to the country France.
Okay.
To a human, France is just a word. But to a relational database, France is a unique cryptographic ID number hidden in the backend. So Zapier can easily paste the word France as text. But natively, it doesn't know how to search the other database, find the secret IG for France, and bind the two items together.
Which totally breaks the entire point of having a relational database.
It really does.
To fix it, William Nutt had to document this complex 4-step workaround that forces you to get your hands dirty. Step 1, you catch the incoming data with a webhook trigger.
Step 2, you create the basic submission item in Notion.
Step 3, you use a find action to locate that secret ID for the country in your other database.
And step 4 is where the magic, or the massive headache happens.
Yeah, what is step 4?
You have to use a module called Code by Zapier to run custom JavaScript. This code bypasses the normal Zapier tools and makes a direct PTCH request to Notion's API.
Injecting the relation manually using an internal integration token. Hold on. What exactly is a PTCH request in plain English? Because that sounds like total developer jargon.
It is developer jargon, but think of it like performing targeted surgery on a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Instead of replacing the entire row of data, a PTCH request tells the server, hey, leave everything else exactly as it is, but just surgically update this one specific cell with this new relation.
Okay, that makes sense. But the Zapier community thread shows exactly what happens when regular users try to become makeshift surgeons.
It gets messy.
Very messy. You have a user named Flow Movement practically pulling their hair out because they kept getting a syntax error unexpected identifier.
And what was the problem?
It turned out to be a simple issue with formatting a backtick symbol around the word bearer in their authorization token.
A single backtick.
Yes. A user named Digidoc Aurora had to swoop in and give them the exact corrected code snippet just to save the day.
And then there is the user Jadadoc, who successfully wrote the code but kept hitting a 404 error, meaning the API couldn't find the Notion page at all.
Let me guess, another tiny typo.
Not quite. Sam B, the community manager, stepped in to help debug. It turned out Jabadot's integration token was only connected to a subpage in Notion, not the parent page where the database actually lived.
Oh man, it perfectly illustrates the extreme fragility of these workarounds. Missing a single backtick in an API request is like typing your password with the caps lock on.
It doesn't matter if you have the right letters. The formatting is wrong, and the door stays locked.
The entire automation crumbles over a punctuation mark. No-code tools sell the dream of perfectly seamless integration, but the reality is, behind the scenes, it's just APIs talking to APIs.
And sometimes you have to hotwire the connection yourself.
It's a necessary learning curve. But here's the good news for the listener. That curve is starting to flatten dramatically.
Thank goodness.
The technology is finally evolving past the need for these clunky, fragile workarounds. And more importantly, we are moving past the delays.
Yes, because Zapier's free tier checks for new data by polling your apps every 15 minutes.
Remind me, how does polling actually work?
Polling is exactly like a kid in the backseat of a car asking, are we there yet?
Right.
Every 15 minutes, Zapier knocks on Notion's door and asks, do you have new data? No. Okay, I'll check back in 15 minutes.
Which, in a modern fast-paced workflow, 15 minutes is an absolute eternity.
It's agonizing.
Which brings us to the YouTube transcript from Dmitry Knichi. His excitement is palpable, and for good reason.
He was pumped.
He really was. He's talking about Notion finally supporting native instant webhooks that are triggered by simple button presses directly inside the app.
Exactly. And a webhook is the exact opposite of polling.
So it's not the kid asking, are we there yet?
No, a webhook is the driver announcing, we have arrived. The exact millisecond you pull into the driveway. The app pushes the data out the moment an event happens.
Dmitry practically couldn't contain himself. Instead of waiting for Zapier to pull a database, he set up a Notion button that instantly fires a webhook payload to a service called make.com the second it is clicked.
And the real-world applications he built for this are incredible.
Imagine how much time this saves. He showed a content calendar system. He has a meeting notes page for a client, and right there on the page is an add to calendar button.
He clicks it, and instantly, like in milliseconds, it grabs the client data, creates new content piece scheduled exactly 5 days out, and automatically generates all the required subtasks.
But the invoicing system he showcased is what truly changes the paradigm.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about how much manual data entry goes into billing. He built a dashboard with payment data. He presses the send invoice button, and it instantly generates a real, legally binding invoice in either Stripe or PayPal.
It assigns the due date, updates the Notion status all at once.
But then he built a void invoice button.
That's the crazy part.
Yeah. If he makes a typo, he clicks void, and it fires another webhook that reaches out across the internet, nullifies the invoice in Stripe, and erases the ID from Notion instantly.
He was talking about how this saves hours of manually copying and pasting invoice IDs just to keep his system synced.
You are no longer just logging information. You are executing complex business operations directly from your notes.
And when you combine these instant triggers with the massive explosion of artificial intelligence, the potential for what you can build is staggering.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about that AI explosion.
Let's do it.
The massive GitHub repository we looked at, curated by Viktor Bezdek, is an absolute goldmine. Out of the 4,718 starred open source projects in that repo, there is a dense, rapidly growing cluster of 618 projects dedicated entirely to AI tools and machine learning.
And if you look closely at the specific tools trending in that list, you see a massive behavioral shift.
What kind of shift?
Well, we are moving rapidly past AI chatbots that just talk to us or answer trivia questions, and into the realm of AI agents that actually take action on our behalf.
Right. The repository highlights projects like Claude Code and OpenHands, which are entirely AI-driven development environments.
Yeah, and I noticed the repository also heavily features something called MCP, or Model Context Protocol Servers.
I'm seeing this acronym everywhere lately. What is an MCP server actually doing behind the scenes?
Think of an MCP server as a universal translator that gives an AI model a pair of hands.
Okay, I like that.
Historically, an AI was trapped in its own chat window. It couldn't see your life. An MCP server securely connects the AI to your local files or your cloud apps.
So it bridges the gap.
Exactly. You combine an MCP server with the databases we've been talking about, and suddenly, the AI has direct, permissioned access to read your Notion data.
Wow.
It can understand the context of your project, write new bullet points to your workflowy list, and even physically fire off those instant webhooks we just talked about.
So what does this all mean for the listener who is just trying to get through their daily task list?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your Notion dashboard or your workflowy list is ceasing to be a passive storage container.
It's waking up.
Exactly. With the integration of instant webhooks and AI agents running via MCP protocols, your workspace is becoming an active, autonomous command center where software observes your data and takes action for you.
It is incredible how far we've come from that blank piece of paper we talked about at the start.
It really is.
So let's summarize the journey we've been on today. We started by exploring how you have to choose a home for your brain, deciding between the intense, focused minimalism of Workflowy's infinite canvas and the panoramic, highly structured database dashboards of Notion.
Then we learned how to pull the rest of the web into those spaces using iframely embeds and OCR technology, so you don't lose focus by constantly switching tabs.
We looked at the gritty, sometimes super frustrating reality of hot-wiring automations using Zapier, webhooks, and custom JavaScript to force our tools to talk to each other.
And finally, we looked over the horizon at how instant webhooks are paving the way for AI agents to actually do our heavy lifting.
It is a massive paradigm shift in how we interact with computers, and it leaves us with a final thought to really chew on as we navigate this new era.
As our meticulously organized databases become directly plugged into autonomous AI agents via webhooks and MCP servers, we are rapidly approaching an inflection point.
Yeah, we are.
Very soon, our productivity apps will be able to complete the routine tasks on our to-do lists before we even open the app to look at them.
Which is mind-blowing.
It is. So the fundamental question you have to ask yourself isn't just how to organize your work anymore.
No, the real question is, what will you actually do with your time when your second brain starts doing the work for you?
Something to think about.
We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it encourages you to rethink your own systems, question your workflows, and explore the incredible potential of these tools. Until next time, keep exploring.